Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in. It's Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series. Hope everybody's having a great week as we roll along and continue the week. The topic today is going to be strategies in a rising interest rate environment. I did a video on this just a couple of days ago. Real quick snippet kind of video, less than 2 minutes. So I wanted to expand. It's a topic that I wanted to expand on today because I'm finding that there's a lot of people that I think could use some help and actually could better understand some of the things they might be wanting to do with as interest rates rise. And you might be surprised at some of that. So before we get started, real quickly, just a reminder, if you need any help on purchase financing, refinancing, any questions, if you need referrals, looking for a real estate agent, financial planner, real estate attorney, anyone in that capacity, I have a great network of professionals that work in and around real estate, and I could help you with any of those. Contact me. Text, call 408-838-9060, or you could always email joe@reradiolive.com. All right, so the title today, the topic, strategies in a rising interest rate environment. The reason I wanted to bring this up and expand on this a little bit more is that I've just recently, in contacting my database and reaching out to past clients and just interactive, these conversations, a lot of people, my belief is, we're so used to, we're so conditioned that interest rates are going to stay low forever. And when I say forever, we have been in such a low interest rate environment for the last, say, 8 to 10 years that I think a lot of people believe, and in their mind, they kind of put a lot of stuff off to the side and go, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to take care of my mortgage now or my consolidation or my equity line because rates will come back down. I just know this is a phase we're going to go through. And I could see why people are caught up this way. Because this is the way it's been. We're conditioned. This is the way it's been the last 8 to 10 years. If you look back, what's happened is 8 to 10 years ago, interest rates really started ratcheting down. And then they'd come down. Everybody get excited, take advantage of it, refinance, and then a little time would go by, bam, 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 there they go. They ratchet down again. And then round 2, here we go. We refinance everybody again, ratchet down again. Round 3 comes. There was 3 to 4, in some cases 5 rounds of refinances over the last 8 to 10 years, which have been good. People have saved a lot of money. They've taken advantage of the interest rates. They've made some wonderful purchases. They're great investments. All those things are good. Here's my concern that I want to talk about today in this podcast is the low interest rates are gone. They are gone. So this is your mortgage therapist today, telling you, if you're on the couch and you're laying there thinking, Joe, what's going to happen with interest rates? I don't know what to do. I think they're going to come back like always. No, they're not coming back. They're going to go up. And I wouldn't be surprised, right now, 30-year money is in the 4.25%, 4 3/8 range, depending on credit scores and all that kind of stuff. But just to kind of give you a frame of reference, 30-year money is in the low 4s right now. Less than a year ago, it was in the mid-3s. That is a big jump. Less than a year ago, you could get a 30-year fixed for about 3.5 or 3 5/8. Think about that. Now we're 4.25%, 4 3/8 range. I think it's very likely by the end of this year, 2017, we could see rates in the mid to high 4% range. I really do. With the economy the way it's kind of moving along, all the indications, I think that the Fed will continue to raise the prime, which will have an effect on the overall mortgage-backed securities and the rates as well. And and we're going to have increased interest rates. The reason I bring this up is that I do think there are a lot of people out there still thinking, I'm not going to worry about it, Joe. Rates are still in the low 4s. It's not a big deal. Something's going to happen. They're going to drop back down under 4. Of course, there's always a chance, a slight chance. And when I say slight, there's maybe a 5% chance something will happen that we get lower interest rates. More likely is there a 95% chance rates will continue to go up. So the reason I want to just make this clear and really bring this home to people is that I'd hate to see people procrastinate and really get lulled into a situation where they think rates are going to come back down and they miss opportunities. The reason I bring this up, recently I've had a lot of people contact me, and I'm glad they have. Joe, I've been waiting and I'm concerned. I have this home equity line of credit. What should I do? And sure enough, we run numbers, and just about every scenario, regardless of what kind of rate you have on your first, it's going to make sense most of the time to consolidate the first and second, even if the rate is a little bit higher. The reason why is you don't want the exposure on that home equity line of credit if you have any intention to keep it going. Now, if you have a home equity line of credit and you have a balance on it, say $100,000 or whatever it may be, and you plan to pay that off aggressively or pay it down aggressively, or you have a strategy to wipe it out, or it doesn't bother you, that's fine. My concern is that the home equity lines of credit are tied to prime. So they have been historically extremely low. People are excited about these $100,000, $200,000 equity lines that are just a couple $100 a month. And it really kind of gets you in this false sense of, oh my God, money's so cheap and it's an interest only. I don't have to worry about it. Those times are done. Here's what's going to happen with the equity lines. Even if you still have a draw period that's still a few years out. Remember, most of those draw periods, almost all of them are 10 years. What does that mean? The minute you open escrow and you open one of these home equity lines, you usually have a 10-year draw. And a lot of people got these, remember, back in 2004, 2005. Now they're coming due. So you really, if you're not careful, you're going to get a double whammy with these home equity lines. One, the rate's going to continue to go up. You've already seen your rate go up at least a quarter. My belief is it's going to go up at least another half or so this year if you have a home equity line. So you're going to the cost of money is going to be more. So you'll have interest rates increasing. The potential double problem that people will run into, and I would say take care of it now and don't even wait, even if it's a few years down the road. That 10-year draw period, take a look at your terms and take a look at your note and see when that 10-year draw period comes due on your home equity line. If you just got a home equity line in the last couple of years, maybe it doesn't concern you so much because you're thinking, well, I have 7 to 8 years, an economic cycle could come through and I might be able to be fine, right? You could be thinking that. Here's a problem. Even if I just helped 2 people just this week, they've had a couple of years left on that draw, and I've encouraged them to go ahead and wrap it up, consolidate the first and second, take care of it now. Here's why. Because we don't know. My guess is in the next 2 years, we have a lot higher probability that rates will be even higher, maybe in the 4s, maybe in the 5s. We don't know. I would guess if someone asked me, Joe, how high could interest rates go? And I get asked that question every once in a while. No one really knows, but in a global economy and kind of the way the economics work these days and as quickly moving as information flows and changes are made, technology, et cetera, I couldn't imagine interest rates, any higher than the mid-5s. That doesn't mean they couldn't go higher than that. I just couldn't imagine 30-year money any more than maybe low to mid-5s in an economy kind of where we are now, in an atmosphere where, things are just different. If someone said, well, what if rates go back to 12, 13, 14%? I guess they always could. I don't think that would ever happen again. I don't know if say ever is probably not a good word, but I don't think that would happen in the next decade or so. I don't know. Different times in which we live in. But they will go up. And really the main focus of today's show is to kind of lay out some of the things you should be doing, the strategies in an interest rate environment where it's rising and the rates will be going up. And so the first one I wanted to really talk about and walk you through kind of, really intentionally is with this home equity line of credit. And in the second part of the show, I'm going to talk about some other reasons why you should be doing some things or considering some things in a raising interest rate environment. So as we wrap up this first segment, again, home equity lines, if you have one, if you have a balance on it, I would, seriously consider consolidating the first and second. Even if you say, Joe, I have this great interest rate on my first, I understand that. And, maybe or maybe not, it makes sense. I'd be happy to, get on the phone, meet with you in person to talk about that. Or if you have a trusted advisor somewhere, you could run these numbers and really run the different options. I would do that sooner than later. I think the Fed's going to raise again next month. I think we're going to have interest rates even higher this time a month from now as we sit here today. So I would seriously take this under consideration. Any home equity lines. The other option on home equity lines is to fix it. You can do that. You could fix it. Most of them will allow you to do that sometime within that 10-year draw period. So before you automatically jump to conclusions, that's one of the options you want to talk to someone about. Can I fix my home equity line? And if I can, what is the interest rate and what do the terms look like? All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and I'm going to continue discussing some additional strategies and some things you may want to look at in an environment where the interest rates are going up. I'll be back in just a minute.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series. As we continue on the show today, the focus, the objective for the conversation is to share with you strategies that I strongly believe to either adapt, take a look at, consider in a interest rate environment where the rates are going up. And we are in that now. In the first part of the podcast, I kind of covered all the things about home equity line of credit and why you want to consolidate that if you can. In many cases, I think you do right now, regardless of the rate on your first. Now, if the rate on your first is really, really good in the low to mid threes, and you're one of those people that really locked one of those great rates on the 30-year money, and you have a home equity line of credit, you do need to take a look at that second. Maybe you fix it. Maybe you have a strategy to aggressively pay it down or pay it off so you don't mess with that first. You don't always want to consolidate, but it's definitely something to consider for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit about other things other than the home equity lines. What other things might you look at or consider at this point as interest rates are going up? If you're sitting at your drawing board and you're trying to figure out, okay, looking at my financial future, what other things might I consider before interest rates go up even higher? Well, one of the things I think is whether you want to purchase another home or not. We are we're here in Silicon Valley, as most of you know, although this podcast gets broadcast all over the United States and the world, but primarily the people that we reach and interact with are here in the Silicon Valley, which is a really strong business environment. Home prices are very high. The cost of living is very expensive. Inventory is very low in the greater Bay Area, so that's driving prices up. I don't think that's going to really change anytime soon. So the other thing I would consider if I were you, if you're thinking, if one of your strategies is, you know what, I think I'll give you a perfect example. If you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to sell my home and move or buy a bigger home, or in other words, I would like to sell my home and buy another home, and I'd like to do that in a year or so. If you're thinking that, I would really strongly consider taking a step back and thinking, okay, even though I want to do this a year or so from now, can I do it now? Does it make sense to do it now? I'm not saying automatically jump and do it if you're not ready, but if it's one of those things that just in your mind you're thinking, I'd like to do this in a year or so, I think you might want to think about it now and strongly consider that. Here's why. 2 reasons. One, that $1 million home, say for example, that you're looking to buy today, if we look at historical data and what's going on in the Bay Area and the Silicon Valley, there's a good chance 2 years from now that $1 million home is 1.1 or 1.2 million. There's a good chance. Now there's a chance that it won't. But if you look at historical data, and if you look at what's going on, and if you look at a place where, the facts are these, and that is, we don't have land to build on. Anytime you have landlocked, where you have no more, really very little land to build on, you either go up with high-rise condo type stuff, or that type of activity, apartments, or that's it. Otherwise, you buy existing inventory. You can't go out and create land. So, if you're one of these people thinking, I want to move, but I'm going to wait a year or so, I would take a strong look at whether you could do that now instead. Again, the reason is that $1 million home is going to be more expensive most likely 2 years from now. And the bigger part of it, the long-term 30-year fix, the mortgage rates are most likely going to be higher 2 years from now. Now, we don't know these things for sure. We don't. All I could do is study this and be really on top of the market on a daily basis, understand it, try to better understand it, consult with experts like I do on a regular basis, be the resource that I can to you in and around real estate. So none of this is for sure. There's no perfect answer or solution to everything. I simply share information based on what I see, what I gather, who I consult with, and then pass that along. And that's what most people do. And I'm suggesting if you are in a situation where you're thinking you're going to move a year or two from now, if there's some reason it's not a problem and you can do it now, I would consider doing it now for those reasons, because you're going to pay a higher price a couple of years from now, most likely, and the mortgage rates are going to be a little bit higher. And that's the reason I would do it. Now, the other thing to think about is, and people do this on a fairly regular basis here in around us, is that they look to buy another home and they strongly consider, well, do I want to sell my house or do I want to keep it and rent it? This happens a lot. It really does. I would say that when I work with clients to finance their purchase, I'll bet 30 to 40% of the time, 3 or 4 out of 10 times, the clients keep their home and rent it versus sell it. I think most people just realize the value of real estate around here, and they want to try to keep as much as they can within reason if they could afford it and if it's manageable for them. So that's another reason to get yourself set up. So let's say you're a person that you're considering selling your home. This could be a double whammy for you. You're considering selling your home, or maybe not selling your home, I should say, and renting it. What you're going to want to do then, if that's your plan, make sure you have the very best financing possible on that home you're in today, so that when you exit that home and that becomes a rental, make sure you have the very best financing on that property today. Here's the reason why. Once you exit that property and it no longer is your primary residence, rates and terms are a lot higher on rental properties. So strategically, if you're getting ready to do this, or let's say you're even a year out or 2 years out or whatever it may be, make sure today you have the very best interest rate possible long term, hopefully, on that property you're in today. Because once that becomes a rental, you're going to want to keep your obviously your costs down, because a rental property really becomes a cash flow, either positive or negative, right? I mean, if you're moving from your home and your obligations on it are $2,000 a month, but yet you could rent it for $4,000 a month, the easy math is that's a $2,000 a month positive cash flow. Now, what you do have to factor in is costs, overhead, potential repairs, things like that. But let's say your mortgage payment, your taxes and insurance, your overall monthly costs is $2,000 a month, and you could rent that for $4,000 a month. That's a great source of additional income. It really is. Now, for some people, they don't want that. They'd rather sell it, take the equity, and do something else. That's fine too, but that's just another strategy. But I'm sharing this with you because this is just another reason, or some things to think about in a rising interest rate environment. What is your strategy with the home you're in now? Are you going to rent it somewhere down the road if you're going to sell it? Now, if you're sure you're going to sell it, another thing you might want to do, which is interesting, a lot of people would say they don't think about this. If you're absolutely sure you're going to sell that home in a couple of years, and you want better cash flow, or maybe you're thinking, I have a ton of equity, why would I want to pay principal? I've seen some people go in and put interest-only loans on on their home, knowing that they're going to sell it in the next couple of years. Here's why. If an interest-only loan gives you an additional $300, $400, $500 a month that you're not paying towards principal because you have so much equity in that house already, and you take that $300, $400, $500 a month and either pay down other debt or put it in your investment accounts or put it towards another vehicle that could make you more money, I've seen people do that as well. So there's a lot of different things to think about when making these decisions. The last thing I want to talk a little bit about, one of the things to think about in a rising rate environment is, what are you interested, or are you considering remodeling or adding on to your home? This is another great time to do this now, even if you thought you were going to put it off a couple of years. Here's why. Some of the obvious reasons. Let's say you have a home, you've always wanted to, add the master bedroom, bath, or let's say you want to do an addition, or maybe just a total remodel, redo the kitchen, bathrooms, whatever. Whatever the size of that project, whether it's $100,000, $200,000 or more. Now is a great time to do that, and I'll share a couple of reasons why. Number one, one of the biggest reasons to do it now is because there's most likely, if you're in the Bay Area, in most areas, you're at the maximum appreciation. In other words, the home values they've never been higher. They've never been higher in many cases in certain areas, certainly in Silicon Valley. If that's the case, when the home value is high as it is, you could access more money from it. What does that mean? If the value of your home today is $1.5 million and you have a $400,000 loan, you could access a lot of additional money out of that to do that remodel or add-on. If you wait a couple of years and we get into this dip and maybe your home is worth, 1.2, 1.3, it's not a big deal. You're not going to sell it. You don't care. You still have equity, but you might be able to access less money at that time. So that is the last thing I want to discuss. If you are thinking about a remodel, an add-on, some kind of addition, paying off maybe student debt, those types of things, now would also be a great time to do that, and make sure you secure those things up. As usual, or as always, if you have any questions, if I can help you with any of this stuff, 408-838-9060. Please go to the website when you get a chance, reradiolive.com. Give us a review. Until next time, take care, and thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more. at RERadiolive.com.